Welcome to my Bake Escape. This week I'm sharing a recipe for a delicious classic vanilla pound cake. For the full recipe, visit mybakeescape.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Pinterest at mybakeescape. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to do so. I appreciate the support. Feel free to share my channel with friends and loved ones as well. Alright, so for this recipe you will need all-purpose flour, milk, sugar, unsalted butter, eggs, vanilla extract, vanilla bean paste, salt, and baking powder. If you can't get vanilla bean paste, you could just double up on the vanilla extract. For this recipe, I am using a bundt cake pan. If you have a bundt cake pan, this will make one of these cakes. If you have a 9x5 loaf pan, you can also use this. It will make two of these 9x5 loaves. To prep the pan, whether it is a bundt cake pan or a loaf pan, I like to use some nonstick cooking spray and some butter, and I take a napkin and a little bit of that butter and I spread it all over the inside of the cake pan, including that middle part. This is going to help the cake release from the pan once it is baked, especially if you have a bundt cake that has a lot of grooves. This is so helpful. Then I take the nonstick cooking spray and I spray the inside of the pan, covering all surfaces, even that middle part, just giving a nice layer of that nonstick cooking spray. And then I take some flour and I sprinkle a little bit of flour on the inside of the pan, and I gently tap the pan and move it all around so that that flour coats all of the inside. So the flour is just sticking to that nonstick cooking spray and butter layer. So for this recipe, you will need 4 eggs and you will need to separate the egg whites from the egg yolks. To do this, I have 2 bowls. I start by removing the egg whites into one bowl, and then I save the yolk in another bowl. We will use both parts of the egg in this recipe. So what we're going to do with the egg whites is we are going to beat them until they are nice and foamy and fluffy and stiff peaks are forming. To do this, I use a hand mixer and I begin to mix, and you see that they get kind of frothy. And after a few minutes, they triple in size, and I continue to mix until they are nice and stiff and stabilized, and you'll see peaks form like this. I set the egg whites aside. I will use those later on in the recipe. The next step is to mix together the wet ingredients, which are the sugar and butter. So to the sugar, I add the 2 sticks of butter, and my butter wasn't necessarily room temperature. It was kind of challenging to cream these together, so I placed this bowl in the microwave for a few seconds. Now I will let you know this is a microwave safe bowl, so make sure you are using a microwave safe bowl if you place it in the microwave, but just a few seconds was perfect enough to let the butter and sugar cream together like this. Then the next step is to add the egg yolk and mix those in, and I just love the nice pale yellow color the egg yolks give to this butter mixture. Now that those are mixed in really well, I go ahead and add the vanilla extract, followed by the vanilla bean paste. I have a link to my favorite vanilla bean paste in the description of this video. So the next step is to combine the dry ingredients. So to the all-purpose flour, I add the salt and baking powder. And using a fork, I mix these together. So now we have all the components for this batter. We have the wet ingredients, the dry ingredients, the milk, and the egg whites are set aside. So we're going to start combining these together. So we're going to combine the flour and the milk to the butter wet mixture. We're going to do this in steps. I add about 1/3 of the flour. I mix that in, and then I add half of the milk. Mix that in. Once the milk has been fully mixed in, I add a little bit more of that flour, and I mix the flour just until it is absorbed into that butter mixture. You don't want to over mix this batter. Then I add the rest of the milk, mix the milk in, and then after that's mixed in, you add the rest of the flour and combine. Now this batter is very thick. It's nice and smooth, but it is very thick, and we are not done yet because we have to add the egg whites into this. So to add the egg whites, I take a little bit of them and using a large spatula, I fold them in. So I'm not as gentle with this first bit of egg whites. It's just getting it into the batter, kind of loosening it up a little bit, and then I will add the rest of the egg whites and just gently taking my time folding it in. You're kind of like creating J's with your spatula, taking it around the outside and in the middle, outside and in the middle until it is nice and mixed in. And then this is what the batter looks like. It is not as thick as it was before adding the egg whites. All right, so next I'm going to add the batter to the cake pan, and I try to do this so that it's spread as evenly as possible. Make sure to get every bit of that batter. Then using the spatula, I just gently spread the batter as evenly as I can in the pan. I also tap the pan on the work surface a couple of times. This will even out the batter and release any bubbles that might be trapped inside, and it's ready to go in the oven. So this is going to bake in a preheated 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 50 minutes. The time can vary. If you're making a loaf pan, it might be less. But I started with 50 minutes, and at the 17-minute mark, when there was 17 minutes left, I checked it and it wasn't quite ready. I pressed down and it kind of still sinks in a bit and it's not really golden brown. So I let it continue to bake, and with 35 seconds left, this is what it looks like. It's beautifully golden brown, it's puffed up, perfectly cooked, and it's ready to come out. So I let the pan cool on a cooling rack for a few minutes, and while the cake is still warm, you can use a butter knife or an offset spatula like I have here to just gently run around the edge of the cake, and this will help release the cake from the pan. Now the pan is still very warm, so I'm using an oven mitt to do this. I also like to give the pan a shake. This helps release the cake from the pan as well. So just give it a little shake and you can see that it's kind of loosening up. So after the cake has cooled for a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and turn it out. And to do this, I use another cooling rack, place it on top, carefully flip it over, and then using oven mitts because it's still warm, I release the cake from the pan, and look at how easy the cake came out of the pan. To flip it back over, I use another cooling rack, flip it over. Look at how beautiful it turned out. It's perfectly golden brown, baked all the way through. It looks so delicious and the smell is incredible. You can even see those little black specks of vanilla bean. Oh, it turned out so good. So for this, I just topped it with a little bit of powdered sugar, and it looks absolutely beautiful. You can add fresh berries, whipped cream. You can do whatever you like with this, but for this, I kept it simple, added a little bit of powdered sugar, and I transferred it onto a plate, and this is what it looks like when it's finished. This vanilla pound cake is so versatile. You can do anything you please with it. You can add chocolate sauce, whipped cream, fresh berries. And next week, if you tune into my channel, I will show you how I turn it into the most delicious strawberry shortcake. For today, I just enjoyed a slice just as it is, and it was so delicious. The cake is tender, moist, and so delicious. It has the perfect vanilla flavor. You can actually see specks of vanilla bean throughout. I'm so happy with the way this turned out, and I'm actually already thinking of ways to use this as a base for many other recipes, maybe adding some pumpkin, carrots to make a carrot cake with spices. So I'll be sure to share all those recipes as I try them out. I hope you enjoyed this video. For the full recipe, visit mybakeescape.com. Thank you for watching and have a sweet day.